Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Season 11, Episode 54, overall 604 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969 and has been a sponsor of this show, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, for the last 3 years. And the late, great Barry Cullen, which Barry Cullen Chevrolet was founded, played for the Detroit Red Wings in the late 60s and early 70s, along with the American Hockey League's Buffalo Bisons before they became the Buffalo Sabres in 1970 as well. So there's a Red Wing connection with Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership and my show today, which is going to be focused on the Detroit Red Wings. I am looking forward to my guest today. By the way, I hope everyone's doing well on this Friday, October 17th, 2025. And I'm looking forward to my guest today. This is his 5th appearance on our show, and his name is Kevin Allen. He's a former hockey writer with the U.S. Today for 34 years and now with the National Hockey League's Detroit Red Wings as a beat writer for Detroit Hockey Now and Hockey Buzz. And we're going to bring on Kevin Allen, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Detroit Red Wings, who are off to a good start after 4 games, 3-1. Good afternoon, Kevin. How are you?
I'm great. And, it is interesting. I don't think before the season, if you and I talked about what we may be talking about, heading into Game 5, it probably wouldn't be how well they're playing. And they certainly are playing well. I mean, they've just in terms of results, I mean, they've had some games that I think they'd like to have do-overs on, but the result has been good, the 3-1 start. And it's interesting because they play a Lightning team, a team that we do expect always to play well, who is struggling a little bit going into tonight. So if there's ever a night to face the Lightning, in Little Caesars Arena, it's probably tonight.
And I was able to see the Red Wings a couple weeks ago in preseason action in Toronto, and I was impressed. I know it was a preseason game, but they were down 1-0 in that game, and then they scored 3 goals in the third period. Larkin, DeBrincat, and an empty net goal by the rookie Emmett Finney. And Kevin, I wanted to ask you about Emmett Finney. Can you tell us a little bit more about him? And did you really expect him to make this team as a Red Wing rookie?
Well, no, I didn't. I thought that there was a good chance they were going to add a rookie, maybe 2, but certainly not 3. And Finney was not on my list of the top guys. I thought it was either going to be Axel Sandin Paleka or a Michael Brandsegg Nygaard, or perhaps Nate Danielson. And what's interesting is they could have had 4. It's possible because Nate Danielson was tracking, in my opinion, to make this team. They really like his sort of veteran attitude for a rookie. He's a guy that understands his role as a defensive player as well as an offensive player. And I think I think he would have made the team had he not been injured. And we'll see what happens now, going forward because of that. But, Finney is what makes him a valuable player is his skating ability and his understanding as well of how to play a little bit of a physical game. If you look at the Red Wings statistics right now, the top 2 hitters on the team are rookies. Brandsegg Nygaard as number 1 and Finney is number 2 in terms of number of hits. And Finney, I think this is, I don't want to call it a surprise, but that's not why they drafted him. I think they drafted him as an offensive player. Although, he did go in the seventh round. I mean, you're throwing darts once you get beyond the third round in the NHL, or once you get beyond the second round in the NHL draft. And so their dart landed big for them, because you don't usually get a productive player like Finney, a guy that's capable of skating with Dylan Larkin, down in the seventh round.
Kevin, I want to get your opinion. Do you find there's enough grit on this team, a little more sandpaper than even last year's team?
Well, for sure, it's more than last year, because Ransing Nygaard is a feisty performer as well, and he's got an NHL player's body already. He's not doesn't need. Well, I mean, he will get bigger and stronger, but he doesn't need the kind of work that most rookies need in terms of his physique. He can handle himself, pretty well in the corners. So that, and the fact that Finney is hitting, and I think a lot of people was lost in the Marco Kasper's arrival last season, because he fits so well. He started, of course, playing on a wing on the top line with Larkin and Lucas Raymond, and then he moved down to the second line to center, and DeBrincat and Kane. And because of his offensive work, it was overlooked that he was second on this team in hits last year with 180 some hits. And so when you add those three players, I think that those three have added some grit, and given a little more physical contact with those three on the team as well. And I think everybody is trying to do a little bit more, because it was much needed. Like, this team didn't have much pushback, and I could play that kind of hockey.
Who on the current Grand Rapids roster should we keep an eye on for possibly being called up by the Red Wings at some point this season?
Oh, that's a great question. One I really like. We do keep track at Detroit Hockey Now of all the prospects, and William Wallander, in my opinion, the 6'4" Swedish defenseman, is capable of playing in the NHL right now. Now, he is not an impact defenseman, say like Sandin Pellikka is or will be. This is a guy that just understands the role of keeping the puck out of the zone, and he knows how to defend one-on-one, and he's got some size, and he has just enough offense to be a contributor as well. But I think he's ready, and I think if they had an injury down in the third pairing, if they had multiple injuries, he's a guy that I think they'd feel comfortable bringing up. And I also think Danielson is another guy. As soon as he's healthy, I think he's on the radar to come up. But the guy that I like to talk about a lot, and Amadeus Lombardi, or Ammo as they call him in Grand Rapids, he's an interesting guy. I think, and you can count me among them, among the folks that were a little disappointed that he did not get more of an opportunity in the preseason. But after doing a little investigation, I found out that, the Red Wings had talked to Lombardi about, his situation, and he knows where he stands. And it's this: they like him. They like him a lot. They know he can be an offensive contributor, but he's a little on the smaller side. He can skate, and he can distribute the puck, and he works hard. There's a lot to love about him. But they wanted and asked him to go down and work a little bit on his overall game a little bit. And that's why you heard him say more than once, I've got to be a better all-around player. I got to be a better defensive player. But don't think for a minute that the lack of playing time in the preseason reflects what the Red Wings think about him, because they do like him quite a bit. But they felt there were others who were closer, and they wanted to give them the playing time, knowing that, they had a plan in place for Lombardi. But I think, his feeling is, right or wrong, and it's my feeling as well, is the Red Wings see him as a guy who could be on the team this season. Like, they think that he's close. They like a lot of the things he does. They think, he can survive as a little bit of a smaller player. But they just want him to literally get a little better understanding of the all-around game, because, he's not a prototypical role players. So, usually for those type players, you say, well, you either got to play in the top six or you got to play, as a role player, one or the other. There's no in between for you. But in his case, I think there is an in between. Like, I think he's a top nine player. I think he's a third liner who could score, but he could be one of those guys on the third line that really gives you secondary scoring that's a little bit closer to top line scoring.
What kind of a team and identity does Todd McClellan and this coaching staff want for this Red Wings team in 25-26?
That's another great question, and I think it's still a work in progress. Like, they want to see more of what they have. I mean, they did have like a half season, but now when you add the rookies in, I think it changes the look of the team as well. But what I think they want is a team that is very difficult to play against defensively, and by that meaning they don't give up easy chances. They're mindful of keeping the puck out of their zone as much as possible. They believe in puck possession, and then be opportunistic in goal scoring. I mean, this is a team that hasn't, at least for the last couple of years, been a very good 5-on-5 team. They really count and depend on their power play, which is very good. It was fourth in the league last year, and they're early going now. It's fifth. They're operating at close to a 27% rate. I think it's 26.7. If they can keep it there, and there's no reason why they can't. They've already got a goal per game in the power play thus far. Then I think they feel like they can score enough 5-on-5, but not unless they play, pretty strong defensively. And I think that's a matter of, managing the puck, being mindful of what's happening in the game in terms of the score, what needs to be done. So I just think they want them to be an efficient team. I don't think, though they want them to be more physical than they have been in the last few years, I don't think they think they need them to become, one of the toughest teams in the league. Like, they're not going to be the Florida Panthers.
What are your thoughts on the penalty kill so far? Because last year, I believe their unit was the worst in the National Hockey League. How important is it to get that penalty kill from the bottom of the basement to maybe the middle of the pack?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're right on that. Like, they don't need to be among the best in the league, but they got to be better than they were. And I think middle of the pack is a good objective for them. And in the early going 4 games during their 3-1 record, they've stopped 8 out of 9, 88%. Last year, like, they were historically awful. Like, one of the top 4 or 5 lowest penalty killing percentages. Like, they were in the 60s and flirting with, being setting the record for the worst penalty killing until, McCullough came in. He improved it a little bit, not a lot, but a little bit, and he got it up over 70, just barely, 70.1%. And so they avoided the specter of landing in the top 4 worst penalty killing seasons of all time, but they still were horrendous. This year it's been much better. Now, small sample size. We got to see what's happened as we move forward. I think everybody, no team is as crisp on the power play as they want to be. So for that, we got to be careful not to read too much into early numbers. But I think thus far they've been encouraged. And really the only 2 changes, and I'm going to call it 1.5 changes, because Sandin Pellikka is not playing big time minutes on the penalty kill, but he has had some time out there. But the big change has been Mason Appleton. He's the one guy that is playing regularly, and of course he wasn't on the team last year. And in addition to playing pretty effectively as a penalty killer, he's now, because of Lucas Raymond's injury, playing on the top line with Finney and Larkin. Of course, he has 3 goals, including that big one the other day against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So that acquisition of Appleton, that looked, pretty blasé when it happened, has really been an important one for the Detroit Red Wings.
What are the expectations for him offensively? Like, obviously they got him for the 4th line and some grit, but do you feel that he could score 15 goals maybe? this year, possibly?
Well, I don't know. That's a lot for him. He's only, I think, one time he's had in the teens. So, I think if he got 10, they'd be pretty happy with that, to be honest. But they didn't get him for his goals. But, people have asked me why he's playing on the top line. Well, there's one reason: speed. He can skate. And, you want someone who can play with Dylan Larkin that can keep up. And for that reason, I think McClellan, who, I like how McClellan sees the game. Like, he has a pretty good eye for, what's happening out there. And I think even though Appleton is not known as an offensive dynamo, I think he saw something in him. He saw how the speed might work with Larkin's speed. And, he gave him an opportunity, and he's seen his hands in practice. I think he has pretty good hands by all accounts in terms of that. So he's given him an opportunity that Appleton really hasn't had, in previous stops. So it's been an interesting experiment, and thus far it's paying off. But I don't think there's been much given. I don't think when they acquired him, Steve Eisenman took his pencil out and say, well, we'll pencil him in for 8 goals or 12 goals. I think they said, he's going to help us in our defensive play and on our penalty killing.
And a little bit of veteran leadership, too.
Yes, very much so.
What is the status on Lucas Raymond? I know he left the game in Toronto on Monday with apparently a shoulder injury. I was told that he might not play tonight either.
Yeah, pretty much McClellan has said that. I wasn't down there, but I've heard that he did say he wouldn't play tonight. But he's still day-to-day. The fact that he's practicing already says this is not a major injury. So this is good, and because they really can't afford to have him out, long term. And I would expect he'll be back relatively soon. They'll probably be cautious. If maybe there was a chance he could have played today, but I think they're going to wait, give it a little more time, and see what happens. Just because he's just too, valuable. And when you start listing the most competitive guys on the Red Wings roster, you only go a couple spots before you get to Lucas Raymond. He's a pretty competitive player, and for that reason, I think they will be cautious with him just to try to get him back as soon as possible and not risk, inflicting further damage on that shoulder.
Who will be taking his spot in the lineup then tonight?
It's still going to be Appleton
Okay.
in Raymond's spot. So, and why mess with hockey as a general rule believes strongly in if it's going well, you don't try to fix it. And since it's looked pretty good the last 2 games with Appleton in there, I think they'll stick with that. Although as soon as it goes south and 2 or 3 bad shifts, then there'll be changes, because that's also the hockey way.
Kevin, we all thought when they played Montreal, the home opener, they scored the first goal on the power play by Larkin, and then Montreal really took over and won 5-1. And then the game against the Leafs at Little Caesars Arena, the Leafs went in and had a 2-0 lead. How much of an impact did McClellan having a say about the team lit a fire under some of these guys?
Yeah, I think it was big. I mean, it's different. He's different than Blashill, different than Lalonde, in that, right after that game, and it was a stinker. Everybody that watched it knows how bad it was. And, when as somebody wanted to point the finger at Gibson, at least in terms of just questioning whether he had a good game, McClellan wouldn't even accept that premise. He just said, no, it wasn't his bad game. It was our bad game. Like, we were so bad. But the difference is he said, I know. He said, I don't even have to read your stories to know that the players are going to say we can fix it. And my question is, when? When can they fix it? Because some of these guys have been doing this stuff for years, and now is the time. We've talked about what we need to do. We need to, and he really did call them out. And it was a really, I think, and it shows sort of why he's respected by players, way to do it. Like, he didn't single out individual players. He just basically said, there's just too many of you who, aren't playing hockey, the right way. That's sort of an expression that's sort of started to stick over the last 5 to 10 years. People talk all the time in the playoffs about playing the right way, which is just sort of hockey speak for finishing your checks, keeping track of your defensive mark, not having lapses, keeping your feet moving, playing the right way. That's just a group term for doing all the things that coaches want you to do to be an effective hockey player. And, it did have an impact. I mean, clearly they've played better, since then. And the three consecutive wins show. And, these are our Atlantic Division opponents. And one of the wins was against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions. Like these are big wins, and no win is bigger than another in terms of impact on the standings, but they're bigger in terms of momentum and confidence and believing in yourself as a team. And I think those wins have had an impact in that regard. I think the Red Wings now are talking amongst themselves about we can do something in the Atlantic Division. We've proven we can beat, and even though the Panthers are depleted with the loss of Barkov and Matthew Tkachuk with long-term injuries, I think still beating them was important for the confidence team. And you wouldn't think professional athletes would have confidence issues, but as a guy that's covered sports for 50 years, I can tell you that's always an issue in every sport, because confidence comes and goes, and even with professional athletes. And I think right now the Red Wings' confidence is high, and if they continue to play like this, after a while, confidence tends to become reality. Confidence grows into like who you are. And you asked before about identity. I mean, that would be part of the Red Wings' identity that they would really like to have, which is to be a confident group, team that not goes in hoping they can win, but expecting to win.
What are your thoughts on the goaltending situation? I know opening game, John Gibson did not have a great game, but the entire team didn't play well. Do you feel that Gibson's going to get back in to see if they can get him back on track as well?
Yeah, they've already said he'll start tonight. I'll just quote Cam Talbot, who said, when they acquired John Gibson, he said, I knew they weren't bringing him in to back me up. You bring the guy in, as he said, he's younger than me, he's 6 years younger than Talbot. So the expectation is that Gibson would be the guy, although both of them would play a lot. And that's sort of the system now that we see around the NHL. The days of the 60-plus game goaltender, that was yesteryear. That's not today. If they had their way, they really like that, 55 game, 37 game split. That's best. It keeps everybody fresh and that sort of thing. But it's a little bit tricky because some goalies need work to stay sharp. So you got to give them enough work to stay sharp. But they're going to bring him in tonight. I probably, if it was me, I'm a go with the hot hand type guy. So I would go back with Talbot for now, because there'll be plenty of opportunity for Gibson to play moving forward. But they're going to go with Gibson, trying to get him going as well. I understand what McClellan was saying, because that really was a team loss, the 5-1. But Gibson wasn't sharp in that game. Anybody who watched it, that wasn't the best of John Gibson. There's no doubt about it. And his last preseason game, he didn't look sharp either. So, I think it's they want Gibson to kind of show the form that he had last year. And this is a guy that I think he has a career either 9-10, 9-11 save percentage, and that would be important for this Red Wings team, who has had goaltenders below 900 during this playoff drought. And if he can come in and play at that 9-10, 9-11 level in terms of save percentage, I think Gibson could really help this team.
What are your thoughts on Sebastian Cossa? Do you feel the team might be giving up on him, or they just don't feel he's ready for the NHL yet?
Yeah, you're right on point today. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't think they've given up on him, but I don't think they see him as close as the fan base does. The fan base last year was talking about would he be up, this year? Would he be the backup? But, I always answer how many 22-year-old goaltenders, because that's how old Sebastian Cossa is. He won't be 23 till later this year. How many 22-year-olds do you see in the National Hockey League? I don't think you see any. It's a hard position to play. Usually you're thinking about bringing guys up when they're 23, 24. So, it's still early for him. But I think a couple of things have happened. I think last year in the second half of the season, after a great start, I think the Red Wings were disappointed in how Cossa played. He just
I apologize, everybody. Just a Wi-Fi issue. Hopefully, we'll get Kevin back on. We're just talking about the Red Wings goaltending situation. So, Kevin, are you back? I apologize for that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I was just saying that Sebastian, I think a couple of things have happened with Cossa. Cossa last year started out well, but in the second half of the season wasn't impressive. He also wasn't impressive in the postseason in the AHL playoffs. And then he came in training camp, and again, the Red Wings didn't see a lot out of him. The second thing that's happened is Michael Postava from the Czech Republic has been signed. Now, what's interesting, usually you bring in a guy who has some experience in a European league. He's a little bit older, but Postava is only 9 months older than Cossa. He's still a young man. So is it possible that Postava could move ahead of Cossa? I think it is possible, very much so. And of course, we still, have the great, Michigan State goalie Trey Augustine waiting in the wings here, provided he doesn't decide somehow this season that he's going to play a senior season and then become a free agent. But there are a lot of scouts around the league that think that Augustine would immediately become the number one prospect as soon as he signs. So, he's not as big as Cossa or Postava, but Augustine certainly has a good college resume. So I think what I would say is the Red Wings have now more goaltending options than Cossa. Cossa they haven't given up on him, but he's not as prominent in their mind as he might have been, say, at the start of last season or even early in the season when he was playing well.
Kevin, what are the expectations from the fan base and the local Detroit media? Do you feel this team with the right goaltending and consistent offensive scoring and better defensive play, do you think this team is capable of getting into a playoff spot this year?
Well, what I would have said 2 months ago would have been absolutely everything would have to go right, and the chances of that were not very good. What I would say now, because they've done something that's not Steve Yzerman-esque usually, is they've brought in some rookies, and I think that has given this team a lot of energy. And I think it has sort of given them a breath of fresh air that I think is sort of motivating them a little bit. Now, whether or not they can sustain that remains to be seen. I do think now that I've seen the beginning of the season and I've seen other teams struggling, as I mentioned before, the Lightning are struggling. Now the Panthers have lost 3 in a row. Boston's not as bad as they were. The Buffalo Sabres are as bad as they usually are. So, I've seen some things. I think the chances are a little bit better. I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think they're going to, walk right into a playoff spot. But if they play well and play to their potential, I think they've got a much better chance than they had last season.
What are your thoughts on Patrick Kane? Do you feel that he's still got enough left in the gas tank?
Oh, for sure. I think Patrick Kane's got a real good chance to make the U.S. Olympic team. Still playing at a high level. I mean, his ability to hold on to the puck, like there's still nobody on the team, Dylan Larkin included, who's better at gaining the zone with the puck than Patrick Kane. Like he's still magical when the puck is on his stick. The goal he scored the other night, he has one defender between him and the goal. He's sort of he's looking for a spot, and then just almost nonchalantly just flicks it into the upper reaches of the net. Well, that's Patrick Kane. He still has a great love and passion for the game, and that fuels him. He says he wants to play a few more years. I don't doubt that he can do that. There's no reason why, because of the way he plays the thinking man's game, that he could not do that. So he's pretty valuable, and he doesn't he's not demanding they pay him probably the money he could get elsewhere. And for that reason, he's a bargain. And nobody wants to play in Detroit when they don't know that whether or not Detroit can make the playoffs. And Patrick Kane does, and that alone makes him more valuable than other players, because it's been hard for Steve Yzerman to recruit players to come to Detroit.
Kevin, what are your thoughts on the 100th centennial anniversary of the Detroit Red Wings coming over from Victoria, BC back in 1926? And I wanted to ask you this too, Kevin. That organization, the Victoria Cougars, who became the Detroit Cougars, how come the Red Wings never accepted their Stanley Cup championship banner as part of the Red Wings organization?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and one I don't really have an answer for. I've not really delved into that, but I'm into the Centennial a little bit. I'm a little bit of a hockey historian, not like my friend Bob Duff, who knows a lot more about it and is probably one of the leading hockey historians in Canada. But I'm aware of their history and how it all came to pass in the Bruce Norris era. And of course, I've covered it for the last 50 years. I wrote my first Red Wing story in the 1970s, so I've sort of been around. But and I think the histories of the original 6 teams are just so much fun. I mean, just look at all the great players that the Red Wings have had through the years. That the Terry Sawchuk, and people forget that Glenn Hall played for the Detroit Red Wings, and they've Ted Lindsay and Sid Abel and Alex Delvecchio and Frank Mahavlich, and the list goes on and on. And then there's some popular players that maybe were not Hall of Famers, but I don't know that anyone was any more popular than Reed Larson and his booming slap shot was during his heyday as well, and how fast Paul Woods was when he first came over from Montreal. There's been a great history and a fine tradition here, and they've won their share of Stanley Cups, not like the Montreal Canadiens, but certainly better than the Toronto Maple Leafs. So there's a lot to celebrate in the history. They have one of the greatest uniforms, obviously, and yet somehow they've managed to put together a centennial jersey that I think is absolutely terrific as well. So, I'm kind of excited to see what they haul out in terms of ways we can sort of celebrate the 100-year history of this group.
I think the red one is awesome looking. Did they ever thought about doing a white one, like the red one in the white colors?
I have, if they have, I have not heard about that. They're probably looking at everything, but because a lot of this is economically driven, as we all know, that if you have a way to bring along something that a fan is going to need, you're probably going to do it. So if they think they can sell the white brand, I'm sure we will see it.
What are your thoughts, Kevin? The last time we had you on the show, I don't think it was confirmed or announced, but what's it like to have Sergei Fedorov finally get his number 91 retired in Detroit?
Well, that was a bit of a surprise to me. I just thought that I don't want to call it a feud, but the disappointment that the Ilitch family had with Sergei, and really wanting to leave the organization twice, and some of the things he said upon his departure, I thought that might, as long as the Ilitch family had owned the team, that may not happen. That eventually it would happen, of course, because he's certainly worthy of it. I don't think anybody even questions that for even a second. This guy was an unbelievable player. But cooler heads prevailed, and the Ilitch family seemed fine with it. So it's a great thing. Bygones should be left behind. So let us hope that it goes smoothly, when I don't know why it wouldn't. I know Sergei is very excited about the honor and to see his number up there. And again, there was never a question, never a question whether or not he deserved to have his number hung from the rafters, because there's probably been just in terms of, not in terms of necessarily production, but in terms of raw talent. Like how many players have had more raw talent than Sergei Fedorov? A 6'2", great skating player who could play both, as we know, because of thanks to Scotty Bowman, both offense and defense. He actually played on the blue line for a while as well, and he was a big guy. Because he had that sort of hunched over skating style. You don't think of him as a big guy, but he was a big guy. He was still 6'2", and he was strong on his skates, and he had the 5-goal game. So much that he did that endeared himself to fans, and yet the lasting memory for me of Fedorov is going to be is after he left and said, "Yeah, I don't want to be here anymore." The fans booed him every time he touched the puck.
Kevin, you've covered the team for 50 years. Where would you rank Sergei Fedorov in terms of all-time talent as Red Wing players?
Well, that's a good question. Because just in terms of production and cups and such, you have people that can't be passed. Gordie Howe, Steve Yzerman, Nick Lidstrom, Terry Sawchuk. So right off the bat, you're coming up with 4 players. But once you get beyond those 4, I think Fedorov is in the conversation in terms of talent. Now, he probably falls a little bit because others, stayed and fulfilled all of their promise. So I'd have to sit down and actually look at the list to come up, but we can do that certainly on our next show. I'd be happy to look at the list and give a ranking of the top 10 or 15 Red Wing players. But he's outside the top 5, but probably closer to the front of the second group than the rear of that second group. That's what I would say, just off the top of my head.
How many times were you able to interview Sergei?
Oh, many times. I knew him well. I actually, one of my favorite interviews, and I still remember it because it was so dramatic, happened when the Berlin Wall fell. And I covered the whole league for USA Today, but I lived in Detroit. So it was convenient for me to go down to Joe Louis, because they had Russian players, to get their reactions to it. So I did. I wasn't on the road at the time. And I remember specifically that I asked Konstantinov about it. And, Vladdy was conservative in his viewpoints on almost everything, but particularly politics or Russian politics. And he predicted that the fall of the wall would lead to hardship for the Russian people based on, he felt that the organized crime would sort of take over the country. And he wasn't wrong about that. Now, that doesn't mean that wasn't important. The democratization of Russia wasn't important, but that did happen, and it certainly affected NHL players. I mean, I remember writing stories about, the Russian mob would, basically extort Russian players, saying if you don't pay X amount of dollars, that your families would be in jeopardy. So Vladdy was kind of right about that. But what I remember most was talking to Sergei about what had gone on, and he goes, "It's a great day for Russia because," and this was his quote, "because you can now write your politics on the wall." And I knew what that meant. That you wouldn't be jailed for going up and writing on the Berlin Wall, free Germany, or for you to criticize the head of the Soviet Union. I still remember Fetisov, in tears when he said that, when Igor Larionov challenged the Russian system, he stood up to Tikhonov, and no one else was brave enough to do that because the consequences, could have been grave. Who knows? You could have gone to jail. I mean, Alexander McGillney, basically risked death by firing squad by deserting the military to come over here and play hockey. So, with that sort of background, Sergei Fedorov, when the wall fell, said, it's a great day for Russia because finally we can write our politics on the wall. We can do it in public. We don't have to complain, behind closed doors. We can do it in public now and not risk. And I've always remembered that, and kind of shows you sort of what kind of guy he was and how his world viewpoint.
Kevin, before we let you go in a few minutes, after Sergei Fedorov, who do you see in the near future or the foreseeable future having their number retired next? Do you feel Brendan Shanahan, Henrik Zetterberg, or Pavel Datsyuk?
Well, I hope it's Zetterberg. I'm a little concerned about his. I think he'll get there, but Zetterberg's Hall of Fame candidacy, and he's in that group, and I tried to. I've sat on that committee. I had one 4-year term, and then once you have a 4-year term, they move you off and they bring in, fresh perspectives. But one of the things that's often forgotten when you review someone's candidacy is, you're not done competing when you retire from the National Hockey League when it comes to getting in the Hall of Fame. What's always forgotten is, there's 2 levels there. First of all, are you good enough to get in? And the answer, of course, is Zetterberg is yes. But the second question is all right, when you come up, who are you going against? Like, who are the other players? Because some of them may have better credentials than you. And while Zetterberg's credentials are very good, they're not unbelievable. And I think because of that, now he's in that bubble area. He's in that area that Jeremy Roenick was in for 11 years. He's in that bubble where Alexander McGillney was in, where he's right on that line. He's good enough. Sure seems like he has the credentials. But every year, great players are coming up, and more are coming up because, there's more and more players playing in the National Hockey League. So I'm a little worried about, and Chris Osgood is going through that as well, because goalies, for some reason, have always gotten sort of a bum deal when it comes to Hall of Fame balloting. So similar deal, where, you're competing against another group. And, what happens is every 4 or 5 years, maybe longer, there becomes an opening. It's a down year. They don't have a bunch of great players coming up at the same time. And then the voting group says, all right, which of the bubble guys are we going to put in? And now you're competing against the bubble guys. McGillney was against Roenick, was against Pat Verbeek, was against Keith Tkachuk. All those guys are competing. These are guys that have all scored, either 500 goals or done a lot. So now, because Zetterberg to me seems to be in that bubble group, I'm hoping Zetterberg will be the first to get his number retired, because he's well deserving that honor as well.
Kevin, just quick thoughts on the passing of Ken Dryden and Bernie Perrotin, how much they meant to the game of hockey, and were you able to interview them when you started out this 50 years ago?
Well, I interviewed them, a lot, to be honest, through, I've done stories about the Broad Street Bullies through the years, and of course talked to Bernie about that, and he was always very entertaining, colorful guy, colorful speaker as well. And Ken Dryden was, I've done stories with him as well. He was, at one point he was thought that people said that he would be a good candidate to be commissioner of the NHL. I remember talking to him about that. He had specific thoughts about the licensing of players' rights for trading cards, and about how the people getting money for autographs and stuff. It should be equal. That he shouldn't get more than a guy that played as a third line player, or a guy that wasn't as popular as he was. So he was a very principled man. I enjoyed talking. He's very sophisticated in his the way he viewed hockey. And anybody who has read the book, the famous book, knows that he understands the game at a different level. It was almost like he was playing 3-dimensional chess, and the rest of us were playing checkers. He had such an unbelievable, astute way of viewing how hockey is played. So, the game is going to miss them. Those were 2 guys, different kinds of players, different kinds of guys, but both of them were, huge contributors, even after they retired from the game.
Finally, Kevin, I know this would take too long to ask you, but what was one of your most memorable moments in Red Wings history, and maybe one of your most memorable interviews that you've done covering the Red Wings in 50 years?
Yeah, I mean, I've never really kind of thought about it in those terms. To be honest, like my favorite Red Wing memories were probably when I was younger and I would go to Olympia Stadium, um, and see games there. And I remember that you could smoke back in the 70s when I started going there. I think it was that's 1970. And so the smoke would waft up into the second deck, and it's like you were looking through a haze when you'd look down on the stands. And back then they didn't overwhelm you with music at all times, and the fan noise for somehow was contained, so you could hear players calling for a pass. And I was sitting on the corner during the Wolf Pama Dennis Polonich, and I actually saw the connection of the stick, um, on Polonich, as it made contact. You could see his nose just kind of move. And I remember getting down there and getting standing room, and it was just a unique experience to see hockey in one of the original six arenas. And I was lucky enough to have seen them all. Olympia was gone when I started covering uh, the NHL for USA Today, but Chicago Stadium was still there. Boston Garden was still there. The Montreal Forum, I was there for the last game of that. Of course, I saw the Toronto Maple Leafs thing. I remember as a kid, as soon as I got my license and as soon as I was able to afford a car, we drove to Toronto to see the Maple Leafs play as well. So all of that, those are going to be my fondest memories of Detroit, was actually going there as a fan.
I want to give a shout out to Ken Cowell, his 30th year behind the Red Wings. Mike, 1 year behind Bruce Martin, who was there for 31 years. And a shout out to Joel Bowen, who I met at BMO Field this summer. His son works for the Argonauts. Joel Bowen is now going to be retiring after this year, 44 years. Did you ever have any dealings with Joel Bowen?
Yeah, I mean, I'd met him. I wouldn't say that I knew him well, but I'd certainly met him, and we had kind of talked hockey just because I had been to all the arenas. Obviously know Ken better, but I did meet Joe as well, and some of the greatest, most gentlemanly people in hockey are the broadcasters. They're just incredibly nice people. So I always appreciate my time spent with them.
Finally, Kevin, can you just tell us on the latest happenings with Detroit Hockey Now, and where can people find these websites and maybe subscribe too?
Well, Detroit Hockey Now is
Just a Wi-Fi issue with Kevin. Hopefully, we can finish this up. Kevin was just going to tell us about the latest happenings with Detroit Hockey Now, which he's a columnist and he's a Red Wings beat reporter. And his websites are down here on the below. Hopefully, we can get Kevin back up. He just froze. So I have he's on X by Kevin Allen, and the website is DetroitHockeyNow.com. DetroitHockeyNow.com, and him and Bob Deff do a lot of columns there. And hopefully we can get Kevin back on here. He just unfortunately he froze up with his Wi-Fi, so hopefully we can get him back on. And I want to say thank you so much to Kevin Allen for coming on. We're going to see if we can get him back on. He was with a hockey writer with US Today for 34 years, and he's covered the Red Wings for the last 50 years as well. So, again, you can follow Kevin Allen on Twitter X by Kevin Allen, and the hockey news are DetroitHockeyNow.com. DetroitHockeyNow.com. sportstalk.com. And I was going to ask him about some keys to a Red Wings game win tonight against Tampa Bay at Little Caesars Arena. And hopefully the Red Wings can get another win tonight against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay comes into this game 1-3-1. The Red Wings coming in 3-1. So Tampa Bay is looking to get a win tonight, and the Red Wings, hopefully they can go for their fourth straight win. And as Kevin Allen mentioned earlier in the show, it looks like former Kitchener Ranger, former Anaheim Ducks goalie John Gibson is going to be starting in net for the Red Wings tonight after starting opening night and having a bad game against the Montreal Canadiens. But to be fair, it wasn't just John Gibson. The entire Red Wings team played poorly against Montreal on opening night at Little Caesars Arena. So Red Wings, Lightning, 7 o'clock tonight from Little Caesars Arena. The game, you can catch it on 97.1 The Ticket with Ken Cowell and Paul Woods, or FanDuel Sports with Ken Daniels and Mickey Redmond. And I'm convinced the Detroit Red Wings have the best broadcasting crew in the NHL with Ken Daniels, Mickey Redmond, and Ken Cowell and Paul Woods as well. So hopefully the Red Wings can win. Lucas Raymond will not be in the game tonight as per tweet from Daniela Bruce. So it looks like they're just being on the safe side with Lucas Raymond. Hopefully he'll be back next week. The Red Wings do have 3 upcoming games. This Sunday, October 19th, the Edmonton Oilers come to Little Caesars Arena for a 3 o'clock start. And then Wednesday, October 22nd, the Red Wings make their way over to Buffalo, New York, and take on the Sabres, Red Wings Sabres, on Wednesday, October 22nd at 7:30. And then Thursday, October 23rd, the Red Wings continue their trip to New York when they take on the New York Islanders at 7:30. So tonight, Tampa Bay at 7 o'clock, Sunday, Edmonton at 3 o'clock at Little Caesars, and then the Red Wings are on the road Wednesday against Buffalo and Thursday against the New York Islanders as well. So John Gibson will be starting in net for the Red Wings, and it looks like we lost Kevin Allen, but hopefully we can have Kevin Allen come back on again in the future as well. And before I wrap up this show, guys, the next Argo Bounce podcast show with co-hosts Chris Palme and Nick Small is going to take place tomorrow, Saturday, October 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern, as Nick and I will preview the Argos 2025 season final on the road against the Calgary Stampeders. Calgary's coming off a big 37-20 win at Hamilton to improve in 9-7 and then try to have a chance to host the West semifinals. The Argonauts are 5-12, coming off a 27-19 loss last Friday to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So hopefully the Argos can finish out this 2025 season strong with a win. But it's an important game for Calgary as well, as they're trying to, I believe they're 10-7, 9-7, 10-7. Calgary is trying to get that West semifinal game at McMahon Stadium. So it's a huge game for Calgary. And as for the Argos, guys are going to be playing for their jobs next year in 2026 as well. And by the way, I want to say thank you to the Hamilton Tiger Cats organization for having me down a third time to Hamilton Stadium this past Saturday, covering the Hamilton Tiger Cats and Calgary Stampeders game. I was able to interview Steve Milton from Tiger Cats Audio Network and tigercats.ca. And at the end of the game, I was able to attend the media press conference call with Scott Manilovich, Bo Levi Mitchell, and we're going to play this interview right now with Bo Levi Mitchell after the Hamilton Tiger Cats 37-20 loss to Calgary. This is Bo Levi Mitchell, quarterback of the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. Type in Chris Palme Live with CDP Talk Show, and you can subscribe now.
Seemed to come out so slowly. Was there an explanation for that?
I mean, listen, there's I'm sure there's a lot that goes into it. You gotta look at the film, and I want to make sure I see that before I comment too much on it. It's just details locked into what we have to do, right? They're a very rules-based team, and you have to attack the rules, and they're good at it. They're good at what they do. They understand how you want to attack them in a lot of their covers, right? So I'll just only speak on the offense. Is that offensively, detail-wise, we can come out better. Understanding how to attack them, just be better.
What is the level of concern that two of the last 3 winning, and this have been underwhelming performances? Toronto was good, but those other 2, is there a level of concern to that?
Not particularly in this room. I understand the words coming from the outside or the question from yourself. I've spoken about it all season that it wasn't to me these last couple games about clinching. It's more about going and playing football and let the win take care of itself. So they came out, had a better plan. We didn't execute as players the way we have to. That's our job. If you take care of your job, myself in particular, we're just in a lot better position to go out there and get a win.
Bo, did you find the offense was a little more effective in the second half, going to a hurry-up tempo?
I don't know if it was necessarily the hurry-up tempo. Scott's just one of those guys that, once he has, looks on you, it's pretty tough to stop the guy. Right? He makes a lot of great calls. And honestly, there were great calls in the first half, right? Like me and Tim connected a couple times there in the beginning. It's a completely different game, So it's just us. It's our job as players. Go back, look at what you did, find a way to get better, make sure we improve it going into next week, against Ottawa back in our house, and just set that tone for the playoffs.
Did they do anything differently this matchup compared to June 7th when you were in Calgary?
Sorry, say
Did they do anything differently defensively you didn't see the last time you played them?
Not necessarily. I mean, I would say, like I said earlier, they're a very rules-based team. Like, they understand their job, they understand what they have to do, they do a good job of it. And the thing is, they always have certain leverages on things. You got to try to attack those things. And it's my job to see, certain leverages, certain guys dropping, not dropping, find the check downs or find the big shot when it's there, and just make the play.
I know you get asked this almost every time there's a bye week, but after a game like this, do you wish you could get Ottawa next week, or are you glad to be able to step away and watch film and prepare for it that way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the kind of guy, I'd rather get back on the field right now. I think a lot of guys probably feel that way. It's never a bad thing. I'm not going to complain about having a bye week and letting guys get healthy and you kind of recharge those batteries a little bit. But when it's playoff football, man, you're itching to go. And we're obviously sour about the performance we put out there today, but we'll go out there, we'll figure out how to get better from it, and we will.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bo. That was Bo Levi Mitchell, the Hamilton Tiger Cats quarterback, talking to the local media and myself after the Hamilton Tiger Cats 37-20 loss to the Calgary Stampeders. The Hamilton Tiger Cats are on a bye week, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats are still one game away from clinching the East Division title and hosting the East final at Hamilton Stadium in November. One Montreal loss, or one Hamilton win gives the Cats the East Division title. Unfortunately, the Cats lost 37-20 to Calgary last week, and then Montreal beat Ottawa on Monday as well. So if the Tiger Cats can take care of business next Friday night, October 24th at 7:30, the Cats are back in action against the Ottawa Red Blacks. If the Hamilton Tiger Cats take care of business against Ottawa, they will clinch the East. So it's still up for grabs, but if Hamilton can take care of business at home against a very poor and having an awful season Ottawa Red Blacks team, which is 4-12 and probably going to have major changes in the offseason to their management team and probably to their roster, Hamilton should clinch the East and host the East final as well. And there's going to be a crossover this year in the West, as there are only going to be two teams make the playoffs from the East. Now will be Hamilton and Montreal, and then the West you've got Saskatchewan, who's already clinched number one in the West. You've got Calgary, BC, and Winnipeg fighting for positioning and to host the West semifinal as well. And the Argos game against Calgary will be tomorrow night, Saturday, October 18th at 7 o'clock. So make sure you tune into the Argo Bounce podcast pregame show with Nick Small and myself at 4 o'clock. And we're going to preview the Argos Stamps game and give you guys CFL Week 20 picks and predictions as well, and thoughts on the Argos overall season in 2025 as well. I want to say thank you to my guest, Kevin Allen, again from Detroit Hockey Now, for coming on here today. He knows the Red Wings as good as anybody out there. So thank you so much to Kevin Allen for coming on. And I want to say thank you to everyone watching this live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, and Instagram. And Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show is available on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods and wherever podcasts are available. And let's see if we got another question here. Evan Gu is a viewer. He is watching. Hey, Chris, thank you so much, Evan, for watching this show. And I don't think I have any more questions as well, but we've got a busy night going on with sports. We've got the National Hockey League going on. We've got 2 Major League Baseball playoff games going on today. Toronto and Seattle at 6:08 tonight, and then 8:38 p.m. the Brewers and Dodgers. The Dodgers are up 3-0, looking to sweep Milwaukee and advance to their second straight World Series to try to defend their World Series championship. And the Toronto Blue Jays have woken up, winning the last 2 games in Seattle by the scores of 13-4 and 8-2. So they've outscored Seattle 21-6 the last 2 games. So if things continue the same way they have in games 3 and 4, the Blue Jays will probably be advancing to their first World Series since 1993. So Seattle, if they want to win this series, they're going to have to win tonight. And regardless, even if Seattle wins tonight, the series is going back to Toronto for Game 6 at least, and possibly Game 7 as well. So Toronto is now 5-0 at T-Mobile Park in Seattle, and the Mariners this year are 4-1 against the Blue Jays at the Rogers Center. And the Mariners are actually 3-0 lifetime against the Jays in the postseason. So it seems like these teams, Toronto and Seattle, play better baseball on the road than they do at home. So Jays, Seattle tonight, 6:08. And I believe Kevin Gausman will be starting for your Toronto Blue Jays as well. And Milwaukee and the Dodgers, I think, will wrap it up tonight. I think they smell blood. This team has been pitching well, playing great defense, and they can hit. This Dodgers team, whether you like them or not, they are winners, and they know how to get it done. So I do feel the Dodgers are going to advance tonight. And Blue Jays Seattle, I have a gut feeling Seattle is going to play a good game tonight, and I have a feeling Seattle is going to win tonight. But regardless what happens tonight, the series is coming back to the Rogers Center on Saturday, October 18th or 19th. Sorry, what's today? Friday, October 17th. So yeah, if the series won't be over after Game 5, but Game 6 would be back in Toronto on Sunday. Saturday would be a travel day, so I apologize. So Game 6 would probably be Sunday, October 19th in Toronto, and Game 7 would be, I believe, Monday in Toronto as well. And if they do advance to the World Series, they will be hosting the Dodgers in the first 2 games at the Rogers Center. Jays had a better record in the regular season than the Dodgers, but if it's Dodgers in Seattle, then it's going to be at Dodger Stadium. So we'll see, but don't count out those Seattle Mariners yet. Don't count them out yet, and it should be a hell of a game tonight as well. And we've got Red Wings hockey tonight against Tampa Bay at 7 o'clock, and the Philadelphia Eagles, your Super Bowl champions, are back in action on Sunday, October 19th, 1 o'clock, when they travel to Minnesota to take on Carson Wentz and the Minnesota Vikings, who are 3-2. The Eagles are 4-2. This is a huge conference game, with the Eagles now losing their last 2 games, and the Vikings are 3-2. So Carson Wentz against his former teammates. So we'll see if the Eagles can play a 60-minute game and hopefully get a win. If they can get a win tonight, then they're back at home next week against the Giants, and that won't be easy as well. Being the Super Bowl champs, you have a target on your back every weekend. So I'm hoping the Eagles can get this 2-game losing streak out of the way, get back on a winning way. And I think one of the keys to an Eagles win over the Vikings on Sunday is they have to get some kind of pressure from their front 4 against Carson Wentz and that Vikings offensive line. And the Eagles need to get off to a good start and put Carson Wentz in the situations. Wentz can still pass the ball well, but he doesn't have the mobility that Jalen Hurts does. So the Eagles have to get off to a good start. They have to get pressure on Carson Wentz, and somebody on their defense has to step up as well. And hopefully the Eagles can get Saquon Barkley going. He hasn't not had a 100-yard game this year, so I expect Saquon Barkley to have a big game. I think the Eagles will pull this out. I think the Eagles will win 30-27. Philadelphia Eagles, 30, Minnesota Vikings 27, and I think Barkley will have close to 100 yards rushing. Fingers crossed as well. And as we wrap up this show, I have another comment again for Evan Gu from Kitchener, Ontario. He's a big sports fan. He says, "Go Jays, go." Thank you, Evan, for watching this show. And as we wrap up this show, 0% financing at Barry Cullen Chevrolet on all remaining 2025 Chevy models on limited terms. 2025 Silverado 1500 RST crew cabin, 0% for 84 months, ends on October 27th, 2025. More details at barrycullen.com or drop by the dealership located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Again, Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, 0% financing on all remaining 2025 Chevrolet models on limited terms. A 2025 Silverado 1500 RST crew cab, 0% for 84 months, ends on October 27th, 2025. That's only 10 days from now. Again, more details at barrycullen.com or drop by the dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Automall. Again, Barry Cullen Chevrolet is the proud sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. As we wrap up this show, guys, if you're looking for a personalized video message from yours truly, CDP, go to cameo.com and type in Chris Palme. I do happy birthday wishes, happy anniversary, pep talks, congratulations. If you want to ask me questions about my talk show, my 3 talk shows, and some of my favorite interviews and favorite sports memories, cameo.com, Chris Palme. Book your Cameo today. You can also follow me on Blue Sky Social. Blue Sky Social at Live with CDP 19. I post a lot of comments, a lot of content on Blue Sky Social, again, at Live with CDP 19. If you're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society, located at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website, cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals and pets up for adoption, their profiles and information are on cambridgehumanesociety.org. And also, they are going to be selling very soon 2026 Cambridge District Humane Society calendars for $10. The proceeds goes to the programs and the animals at the shelter, and yours truly will be selling some calendars as well. What a great stocking stuffer or Christmas gift for $10, and you'll be helping out the animals down at the Cambridge District Humane Society. And right now, they have 2 dogs, I believe, up for adoption. Chico, who's been there for a while. Chico's a great dog. Please check out Chico's profile. And Pebbles, her adoption is pending. She's a great dog as well. The staff do a really good job in looking after homeless animals, and people like Michelle make sure they are adopted into good homes with good families as well. And every Wednesday in the Cambridge area, if you're struggling financially with the cost of pet food, dog food, cat food, whatever, if you have some dog food or cat food that you'd like to donate to the Cambridge District Humane Society, please consider dropping it off. Again, 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge. They're right located across from the Cambridge Center Mall as well. So they do that every Wednesday, a pet emergency fund. So if you have pet food at home that you're not using, please consider dropping it off to the Cambridge District Humane Society. And if you're looking to adopt a pet, you can do it by calling and making an appointment, 519-623-7722, extension 0. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, again, is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. Make sure you subscribe, share, and follow me on these platforms as well. You can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Palme. You can also follow me on TikTok. Yes, I am a TikTok content creator. You can follow me there at Chris Palme. And I want to say thank you to my almost 1,100 followers on TikTok. And I have a lot of TikTok content coming up as well. So please look for me on TikTok at Chris Palme. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or live streaming or podcasting, check out StreamYard.com. They have basic free plans, paid professional plans like I do. And if you're a business that does a lot of webinars or live streaming for your business and company, go to StreamYard.com and contact the sales department for business pricing as well. StreamYard has been the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, the Argo Bounce Podcast Show, and the Small Talk Podcast for now almost 5 years. So big thumbs up to StreamYard.com. Finally, guys, Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. The audio version is on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, Tuned In, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. Please subscribe, like, and share as well. Finally, you can email Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you'd like to support my content, you'd like to support my YouTube channel and my 3 talk shows, you really like my content, you can PayPal me at Chris Pame on PayPal. So Chris Pame on PayPal if you'd like to make a donation or contribute and support my YouTube channel, which is growing. And I want to say thank you to all my subscribers and viewers on YouTube. And if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel yet, Chris Pame, Live with CDP Talk Show, please subscribe, like, and share as well. I have more great content coming there as well. And finally, you guys can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky Social, Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere except for Snapchat. And make sure you check out my YouTube channel again, Chris Pame, Live with CDP Talk Show as well. And I get a final comment here from Edward Hearn, who was a guest on my show 2 weeks ago. He's a great guy. He was on my show 2 weeks ago. So check out my show with Edward Hearn. He's a professional motorcycle racer in California. He just wants to say, hey, Chris, thank you so much, Edward, for watching my show and supporting it as well. And that is going to wrap it up for today. Again, I want to say thank you to Kevin Allen, a lead columnist with Detroit Hockey Now and Buzz Hockey, and a longtime reporter covering the National Hockey League's Detroit Red Wings, for coming on. I do apologize at the end of it. The Wi-Fi froze, so Kevin had to leave a little bit early, but we will try to have Kevin back on again in the future. And I want to say thank you again to Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership here in Guelph for sponsoring the show. And thank you to everyone watching this live stream and on audio as well. And the next Argo Bounce podcast show tomorrow, Saturday, October 18th, 4 p.m. with Nick Small and myself. The next Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show will take place sometime next week. I am working on more shows and guests next week as well. And I'm going to be on the Knee Jerks podcast this Tuesday, October 20th from 8 o'clock to 9:30 p.m. I am going to be filling in for Greg Eno, so look for me on the Knee Jerks podcast with Al and Nick and myself filling in for Greg Eno on Tuesday, October 20th. From 8 o'clock to 9:30. I'm not sure if the show is live or pre-recorded, but I will let you know as well. And before we wrap up this show, I had a chance to do a virtual career session with some local high school students, thanks to the Business Education Partnership of Waterloo Region. I want to say thank you to Jennifer Burnstill for giving me those opportunities, and I will be back at a public high school in the next week talking to some kids in school about the importance of education and also about careers as well, and my story as well. So a big shout out to the Business Education Partnership of Waterloo Region as well. And I think that is about it for this show. It's hard to believe it's already Friday, October 17th, and I'm looking forward to episode 15 of the Argo Bounce podcast show. I think me and Nick are going to try to do one more show after this since the Argo season is going to be over with. So our show will be coming to an end before we come back in 2026, hopefully, probably in May or June. And the next Small Talk podcast with Marlene Sharp and myself will take place probably the end of October near Halloween. The guest and the date and time to be announced there as well. So I just want to say thank you to everyone again for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet dealership here in Guelph. And finally, as we wrap up, if you're a business in the Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge area, you're looking to get your business advertised, check out CDP Media Productions. My prices are very fair and competitive, and I look forward to working with you and your company as well. You can contact me at cpame19@gmail.com, or you can DM me on any of my social media pages as well. So if you're looking to get your business and company advertised on live stream, I'm on 21 platforms, and I have listeners in 56 countries around the world on audio platforms. Please check out CDP Media Productions, and I look forward to hearing from you and possibly working with you as well. I hope everybody has a great afternoon and enjoy the Blue Jays Seattle game tonight at 6:08 and the Dodgers Brewers game 4 at 8:38 tonight. And as always, go Eagles, go Argos, and we'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock for one of the final episodes of the Argo Bounce podcast show with Nick Small and myself. Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show. We'll be back next week. Have a great day. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you all soon.